Here's your daily dose of fitness, food, and fun. Anjelica's Daily Surprise starts now.
Hello there, and welcome to my apartment. We're in the kitchen today because I'm going to be making a dish that is quite the viral recipe. It's called Marry Me Chicken Pasta. Now, apparently, this recipe is so effective when fed to the object of your affection that it has been known to induce marriage proposals. It's no wonder with all these fantastic ingredients that we're going to be putting here in just a moment. And that's why I've decided to cut to the chase and dress up like a bride. Okay? So, we're going to be making Marry Me Chicken Pasta today. I've got a tablespoon of olive oil in the pot here with 2 tablespoons of butter. And we want to get that sizzling. So, got that. And we've got Parmesan cheese, onion, butter, chicken stock, heavy cream. We've got a little bit of this pasta noodle. That doesn't look very good. It looks like swamp water, honestly. But this is from the noodles that I've already boiled. So you can use any kind of noodles you want here. I'm just going with your traditional spaghetti. So I've got my spaghetti all cooked up in the bowl. You can use penne. You can do it with rice. Or if you want to get rid of the carbs or keep it minimal, you can just eat the chicken pasta with the sauce. If you want added nutritional value, you can add spinach so that you can feel good about yourself. Okay? No spinach here today, but we do have some of the basics, which are a variation on other Marry Me Chicken Pasta recipes I've seen online. Okay. So we've just got this going here. This is ready to go. I've got my chicken. I've got 2 chicken breasts here cut in half. We're going to take the seasoning. So I've got half a tablespoon of smoked paprika, which is kind of a luxury item. I was into spices for a while and I picked some of this up. It's a little hard to find, but you can either smoke it on your own in a pan very gently, just to heat it up to bring out the flavor of a regular paprika. Or you can use just onion powder, garlic powder, Italian seasoning. There's many variations of spices. So in this particular case, I've got a lot of smoked paprika, I've got pepper, and I've got salt. And I'm just going to lightly season this. Now, a lot of people are big about seasoning. It's all about the seasoning for some people. I don't like seasoning to overpower the cheese. You can, by all means, use more seasoning. More salt, rather. A lot of people like really salty food. I'm trying to keep it as low as possible in salt. And also, speaking of low in sodium, I've got a half a cup of low sodium chicken stock here. Okay. So you want to get those just nice and coated. Ayo. Do you know how many cooking segments I've done where I've tried to do this and then just nothing happens? Not this time. I've rinsed my chicken, and then I washed the sink that I rinsed it in. So the dangerous thing about rinsing chicken is sometimes you get all those chicken juices all over your sink, and that can make you more prone to getting salmonella. So you want to just make sure that after you're done rinsing, you do a deep clean on your sink. Okay, about 4 or 5 minutes on each side. I'm going to go wash my little fingies. I'll be right back. Okay, so our chicken is starting to cook. Wow, maybe I shouldn't have worn my wedding dress. I don't want to get chicken grease on my wedding dress. Actually, that would be very on brand, I think. So it's been just a few minutes here. I want to do another 5 minutes. I know this does not look pretty. My knife was pretty dull. But the good news is when you cook it like this, you put it aside to set while we make the rest of the sauce. You could just cut it up later so that you can arrange it really nicely. You can also cube the chicken before you cook it. I like doing it like this. It's just a little more visually appealing. This is a very tasty dish. How could it not be? But there was so much prep work. So if you're looking to make a statement in 30 minutes or less, this is probably not the dish for you. What I did notice is everybody online was like, this only took me 20 minutes. It's like, who are you? I had to portion everything out. First of all, I had no idea where they kept sun-dried tomatoes in the grocery store. Do you know where they keep them? That took me 20 minutes alone. But I will say, once everything does get prepped, comes together pretty quickly. So, chicken's still cooking. I'm just going to walk you through all the ingredients we have. Once that's finished, we're going to remove it. We're going to put it aside. We're going to add another 1.5 tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter, and then 1/3 cup of chopped onion. A lot of recipes don't call for raw onion, but if you have the time and you don't mind getting a little oniony, then I suggest it. Although I don't know who's going to want to kiss me after eating this. And then I have 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of chopped garlic. From here, I have 1 cup of grated Parmesan, 1 cup of heavy cream, as I mentioned earlier, 1/3 cup of low-sodium chicken stock, 1 teaspoon of chili that we put in at the end, my tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and my 1/3 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. Okay, so this chicken is done. I'm going to remove it from the pan. I'm going to place it on a dish here just to set aside. You can cover it with tin foil if you want it to stay hot. Success. Okay, we're going to reduce the heat on this. I'm going to get rid of my tongs here. I'm going to switch to the good old-fashioned wooden spoon. Remember being spanked with one of these when you were a kid? Yeah, this brings back memories. Heat is reduced. We add more butter. You know how I love my butter. Ooh. Good. We're just going to let this melt in here. God, I feel so virginal in this. It's so weird. Now that this is almost melted down, I'm going to add my 1/3 cup of onion. I get how this recipe could make somebody want to propose, but it's definitely not an aphrodisiac, that's for sure. It's very heavy, a lot of cream, a lot of onion. Doesn't exactly make you want to get it on, you know? I've never been married. I haven't been married, but I have an aunt that was married like 5 times. And there was one time where she was like juggling boyfriends. And I was a little kid and we were visiting her, and she had one boyfriend drop by and then another one visiting after. And she's like, remember, this one's Frank and this one's Seth. And I'm like, okay. And then I called Seth Frank. And he's like, what? Who's that? And he started asking her questions. And because I was like 8 years old, I thought I was going to be in so much trouble. So I ran and hid from her for the rest of the day. And then she was like, where's Anjelica? And I was like hiding. And I'm like, I thought you were going to be mad at me. And she's like, oh, I don't care. She could talk her way out of anything. She had one of them gave her a car. He really wanted it, I guess. So he gave her a car, and then she got into a little bit of a fender bender with it. And then this was another scenario. I answered the phone, and she's like, whatever you do, don't tell him about the car, because he doesn't know I have a car, because it's from the other guy. So the other guy called. And he's like, where's your aunt? And I'm like, oh, she's just at the mechanic getting the car fixed. And he's like, what car? She doesn't have a car. I was just messing things up left, right, and center. And now I'm just like divulging all of her secrets. Starting to sizzle up here. It smells great. It's time to add in our 1/3 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. Now, I never used to be a fan of sun-dried tomatoes, but as I get older, I have an appreciation for them. It was only a matter of time. I am Mediterranean after all. Gonna pop in this Italian seasoning that has just a little bit of salt. Now, fun fact about Italian seasoning, you don't have to go to the store and buy Italian seasoning specifically, although they do have that. You can make your own. Thyme, oregano. What else does it have? Basil. And then marjoram, which is kind of like a sweet oregano adjacent spice. But you can, to a degree, improvise if you don't have the specific spice in your rack. Okay, so it's been about 30 seconds. I'm going to take my chicken stock here, 1/3 of a cup, just to reiterate. pour this in to deglaze. Like I said, this doesn't have to be the exact recipe. There's a recipe where you can use tomato paste as well. You don't have to use raw onion. You can use onion powder, garlic powder, but I like using the real thing, you know? Sometimes when I taste too many different seasonings, it just doesn't taste as good to me. And I want to make sure this works. I want to make sure he proposes. Look at that bubble. Okay, it's time to add the heavy cream. So I've got 1 cup here. Oh boy. Now this should make about 4 servings, but it depends on your serving size. I mean, I'm always going back for seconds. So what I aim to have is enough for leftovers the next night. I don't really want to be eating Marry Me chicken pasta for the next week. I don't think my toilet wants me to either. But I like having enough for leftovers so I don't have to think about cooking the next night. Okay, this is my favorite part. So I've got about 1.5 cups of grated Parmesan cheese here. We're not going to put the full cup in. Okay, so I'm saving about 1/2 cup. So I'm putting a full cup heavy cream, full cup Parmesan. Oh, yes. Creamy, tomatoey, chickeny, pasta-y. Okay. So I'm going to stir this in. Make sure all that cheese gets melted. And once that happens, I'm going to turn it on to low and let it simmer for 5 minutes. Okay? So just working out all that cheese. There we go. Okay, this is on low for 5 minutes. And while I was waiting for that to simmer and get all mixed up, I cut up the chicken and it looks pretty good. We're going to now add this chicken into the sauce to stir it in. To my recipes. There's nothing worse than getting a pasta, whether it's seafood or chicken, and just not having enough of that meat in there. Oh, and by the way, if you're not a chicken type, you can use salmon. This recipe works great with salmon too. Ooh! Pepper flakes there for a little bit of spice. Coated, I did just dump it in one area. But less spice. It's truly up to you or whoever you're trying to woo. If your loved one struggles with irritable bowel syndrome, this might not be the recipe to get them to the altar with. But it's intolerance, and I've decided that eating the cream sauce is worth it. I don't care. I'll face it. Two is we're going to add the pasta into the sauce. Now, I never addressed this earlier, but I made about 1/3 of the package of noodles. Make too many noodles. That's just the reality of it. You go, yeah, this seems like a good amount, and it's half the package. This is good because you get to control the amount of noodles you're adding to your concoction. We're going to take some of our little swamp water, our little pasta water. So this is a cup of the water that I boiled the pasta in, and I'm just going to add a little bit at a time, just to give some liquid back. Now, if you have access to fresh basil as a garnish, you totally can use this at the end. So basically, you don't have to use all this pasta water. Take a look at your pasta. Have you achieved the desired consistency? I think this is a good consistency here. It's a little liquidy, but not too much. the flavor's really gonna settle into the noodles here. So I just poured a splash in, but it's good to have. It's good to have more resources than not enough, really. Okay, and I think it's time to eat. So excited. Okay, I'm just going to get a little bit of pasta in the bowl here. Some sun-dried tomatoes. Just making myself a little sample here. I don't want to eat all of it in front of you now. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to remove this off the heat. That extra Parmesan that I had to the side. Oh, yeah. You can never have enough cheese. You know when you go to an Italian restaurant and you order something that requires Parmesan, right? And then they come to the table and they're like, just tell me when to stop. I'm just like, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. I've frustrated a lot of waiters with that move. Okay, here we go. My presentation, always a 5 out of 10, but I bet it's going to taste good. It certainly smells good. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of everything here. A little bit of chicken, a little bit of sun-dried tomato. Oh my gosh. That is so good. I don't want to share it with anyone else. Are you kidding me? Do I have to feed it to my lover? You know what? Maybe I'm not the marrying kind. There's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, this is so good. I don't want to share it with anybody else. Maybe I'm not the marrying kind. That kind of works out. Turns out Marry Me Chicken Pasta taught me a lot about myself. I'm not sharing it with anybody. That's been Marry Me Chicken Pasta on Anjelica's Daily Surprise. Privacy, please.